Good evening. This side Rahul Magan here as Group Chief Executive Officer Treasury Consulting. Today I am going to be speaking about a very important topic which is happening in the world of financial market. But unfortunately we are hardly bothered about this topic. We knew that what is happening with the neighboring countries. So example, if we speak about three countries who are in Asia, number one is definitely the Sri Lanka. Number two, Pakistan, and number three is the Nepal. When I speak about Pakistan, please do not take India-Pakistan politics into consideration. Strictly restrict yourself to financial markets. I repeat, do not take any form of politics into consideration. So guys, what is happening is that when we speak about Sri Lanka is in a huge mess. Rather, according to the public information, that they need urgent funding of not less than 3 billion US dollars. 3 billion US dollars. And according to the public information, around 25% of the debt of Sri Lanka is financed by China. The whole information regarding this is in the public domain. But the hard fact is that we hardly bother about these statistics until these statistics came so close that we bound to lose. Now, when we speak about Pakistan, the situation is more severe than what we envisaged. I again repeat, we should not enter into a discussion whether Imran Khan ousted was the right one or whether it was the wrong one. That is politics, let it be. But Pakistan, as we speak, is standing at a debt level which is beyond imagination. Beyond imagination. Like if we speak that $1 is 296 Sri Lankan rupee. 296 Sri Lankan rupee. While for Pakistan, $1 is near about 182 Pakistani rupee. Which precisely means that situation is messing. Now today we got another information, and that information is again a shocking one. Now that information is that Nepali government, which means the government of Republic of Nepal, they fired their central governor. And why did they fire their central governor? Because the FX reserves of central or basically the Republic of Nepal is less than $10 billion. You knew that as we speak in 2022, when Russia already invaded Ukraine and Russia is losing. In that regards, having a FX reserve of 10 billion is nothing for Nepal. Nothing for Nepal. It is like a penny, Now, very important thing is that the debt level of countries are going up, and one by one the defaults started. So we have an example of Sri Lanka, we have an example of Pakistan, now we have an example of Nepal. Even the countries like Singapore are staring at a debt to GDP level of near about 140%. You heard me right, 140%, which precisely means that if Singapore having a GDP of $1, their debt is 40% more. Guys, in India also, the debt to GDP ratio is approaching near 200%. According to the statistics, I repeat, according to the statistics available in the public domain, India debt to GDP ratio was near about 50% before 2014. I repeat, when I speak about 2014, one should not enter into any form of politics. Politics is separate. We are here about the financial market. So repeat this. That is very important thing, because the biggest problem in India is that if you start speaking about the financial market, people start indulging you in a politics. So before 2014, the debt to GDP ratio was near about 50%. But according to the statistics provided by International Monetary Fund, which are well available on the Google, but unfortunately we do not have time to study, these statistics. We are too busy in watching the paid media. According to these statistics, the debt to GDP ratio of India is approaching 100%. And I'm sure that every budget, people focus on tax, their tax benefits, and all in all. But the Indian government is raising a huge amount of money. A huge amount of money. And by the way, this money needs to be repaid. But unfortunately, we are hardly bothered. Keeping this, I would like to summarize my discussion, and that is that the debt level of the countries are ballooning up. And now they have started blew up also. Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Nepal, Egypt, Mauritius, Maldives, Malaysia, Singapore, Japan, China. The examples are coming almost every day in the public domain. But unfortunately, we are very busy people because we hardly bother about these statistics. And I'm telling you that very soon a big bust is on the cards. So today onwards, I restarted my Facebook Connects, but these Facebook Connects would happen only in the night, not in the morning time, because I do not have time in the morning. Thank you very much. This is Rahul Magan from Treasury Consulting Group. Now I will see you very often on the Facebook Connects. You know my personal number, which is +91 9899 242 978. But before I wind up, I have something to say, which is Treasury Consulting hardly bothers about the feedback. We hardly bother about the feedback. For us, the likes, the dislikes, the comments, the views, the subscribers, all these are immaterial, because we speak facts on the financial market. We do not belong to any political party. We are not from any political party as far as the India is concerned, as far as the Singapore is concerned. We strictly restricted ourselves to the financial market. That is what it is. More extensive information on the cards. This is Rahul Magan from Treasury Consulting Group. Have a great time ahead. Thank you. Good evening. This side Rahul Magan here as a Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting, and also a venture capitalist. In today's Facebook Connect, I would be talking something important pertaining to United States. Now, as we understand that the world economy is facing a war, which is nothing but the US-Ukraine war. There are other geopolitical tensions going between Russia, Taiwan, probably North Korea, United States, and many other countries of the globe. But having said that, the attraction is US and Ukraine. But before this war, the world had COVID. In fact, even today, as we speak, the world is having COVID. The new variants are coming, new variants are emerging up, and so on and so forth. Now, the inflation is rising up worldwide. Now, this inflation is not rising because of I would say, the salary inflation, basically the wage inflation. Wage inflation in the sense like when companies trying to pay exorbitantly to retain the talent. So this is not the wage inflation. Let it be very honest. This is a supply restricted inflation, which means that due to Corona and now because of Russia and Ukraine, the supply is constrained. Now this is pushing up the inflation. Now since it is pushing up the inflation, the central banks across the globe are trying to tame it via the rate hike. As we speak, Federal Reserve already done with a 25 basis point hike. European Central Bank also done with 25 basis point hike. Central Bank of Korea and many other central banks are done with their respective hike. But the end result is not yet achieved. And this is what I'm warning people on my YouTube channel, and now we already started the Facebook Connects. I am warning on the Facebook also. You will not be able to achieve this by hiking the rate, because the small and medium term economy or the small and medium term enterprises are in a very bad shape, and thanks to Corona and the war. So expecting your rate hike would be able to bring inflation down is a big mistake. Now, a very important point which I would like to discuss from the Indian, I would say, from the India monetary policy angle. Few days ago, we had a policy meeting, MPC, Monetary Policy Committee of Reserve Bank of India. The Einsteins, Edisons and the Newtons came in public domain and said that, India would be hiking the rate. But I am persistently saying one thing, that India is not in a position to hike the rate. The reason is pretty clear. And the reason is that the debt level of Indian government is rising. And it is rising at a very fastest pace. Now that's an unfortunate fact that the paid, sold and corrupt media of India is not reflecting that. Every budget we focus on tax or the tax benefit. But unfortunately where we never focus is, I would say the gross and the net borrowing of the government of India, which by the way is going up exorbitantly. So both gross and net borrowing is going up exorbitantly. Now when the gross and net borrowing is going up, of course the interest cost would go up. There is hardly any doubt. Now when the interest cost go up, it means that the government either need to print more money, that's more important, or the government need to borrow more. From the last 6 months, as far as the data is concerned, and I doubt the data, India is witnessing double-digit inflation, which is WPI. WPI means Wholesale Price Index. WPI is nothing but the 303 of 2022. Now, which means that when the whole world is on AK-47 or the advanced assault weapons, the WPI is nothing but the 303. But still India is computing inflation on WPI. Hardly any media channel talks about CPI. And CPI linked bonds failed drastically. That is another good thing which we never wanted to discuss. Anyways, now as inflation is shaping up in India, we will see that the saving structure of India will collapse, which means that the money which you are saving will come down drastically, because the real interest rates are already negative in India. And that's a fact, because today the inflation is near about 13% to 14% as per official statistics. In reality, it is more than 20%, and in some cases it is more than 30%. but officially speaking, it is 13 to 14%. The saving structure of the country would collapse. And when the saving structure would collapse, it would have a deep and denting impact on the stock markets. That I am warning you right now. Like I warned people in 2008 about venture capitalists and the private equity fund, I warned people on multiple aspects at a multiple point of time. And now I am warning you that probably in another few years from now, the saving structure would collapse, because whether it is petroleum prices, whether this is diesel prices, whether this is gas prices, whether this is metal prices, now whether this is any other thing, the pricing is going up. Now, when the pricing is going up, it would have deep and detrimental impact on the saving structure. Government of India is relentless as far as the borrowing program is concerned, because every year you are borrowing a huge amount of money. And when you borrow a huge amount of money, remember you need to pay. To conclude my story with a live example, that today Sri Lanka defaulted on a whole 51 billion. I repeat, on a whole 51 billion of debt. Now this includes near about 25% debt of China and rest of international agencies. So the MBA professionals who were taught a concept called sovereign debt. Now sovereign debt means it cannot default as it is guaranteed by a country. This concept is foolish now, because whether this is Sri Lanka, now Pakistan is facing around 43 trillion Pakistani rupee of debt, and you know what is happening with Nepal. So these concepts are foolish now. Very soon the world will see a major debt collapse, and I don't think that any country would get spared. The reason being, the whole, like as we speak, the world having around 229 trillion worth of the debt. 229 trillion worth of debt. I am warning you right now that the debt level of India is rising. When I speak about the debt level, I mean to say government and corporate. I'm not naming any specific corporate, but the corporate I am talking it about, rather the corporates I am talking it about, these corporates accumulated a huge amount of debt. That's a separate thing, that in the countries like India, the stock price would always go up because people are foolish enough not to understand that. But history is witness that everything, specifically talking debt, when it would go up, it has to come down, which means the corporate will default. Infrastructure leasing and financial services, Diwan housing, Yes Bank. There are numerous examples. I'm never short of examples which we heard when we saw boom. All of a sudden, boom. Debt level is rising. The paid, sold and corrupt media is completely ignoring that. We do not knew this about. Media will never talk about this. Rest you all know. Like I promised, the Facebook Connect started, but always in the night because of the time restriction. This is Rahul Magan from Treasury Consulting Group. You knew my number, 9899242978. I repeat, 9899242978. Have a great time ahead. Good evening, friends. This side Rahul Magan here as a Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting, and also a venture capitalist. आज का फेसबुक लाइव हिंदी में। आज हम अगले 10 मिनट में बात करेंगे भारत की एक महान कंपनी जिसका नाम है भारत पे। आई होप आप लोग भारत पे के बारे में रेगुलर अपडेट होंगे, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम ये है कि अपडेशन का मतलब होता है मीडिया, और मीडिया कभी हमें अपडेट करता नहीं। तो भारत पे ने इस साल फाइनेंशियल ईयर 21 में अपने रिजल्ट्स रिपोर्ट किए, और भारत की चोर मीडिया, मैं चोर मीडिया इसलिए बोलता हूं कि सारे फैक्ट्स को छुपाकर वो सिर्फ वही बताते हैं जो उनको बताना चाहिए या जिसको बताने के पैसे मिलते हैं। तो भारत की चोर मीडिया ने सिर्फ यही हंगामा मचाया कि भारत पे का रेवेन्यू 20 गुना हो गया, यानी कि फाइनेंशियल ईयर 20 में भारत पे का रेवेन्यू था 6 करोड़ और फाइनेंशियल ईयर 21 में हो गया 120 करोड़। तो मीडिया ने इसका हंगामा मचाया, लेकिन भारत की मीडिया ये बताना भूल गई कि वही भारत पे है जिसने फाइनेंशियल ईयर 21 में लगभग 2961 यानी 2961 यानी मोटा मोटा 3000 करोड़ का लॉस अपनी किताबों में लिया। 3000 करोड़, बिल्कुल ठीक सुना आपने। अब समझने वाली बात यह है कि एक कंपनी जिसका रेवेन्यू मात्र 119 करोड़ हो और जिसका एक साल का लॉस 3000 करोड़ हो, तो दुनिया में आइंस्टाइन का बाप भी उसको यूनिकॉर्न जस्टिफाई नहीं कर सकता। लेकिन यह अलग बात है कि अगर हम भारत पे के सीईओ की बात माने तो वो आज भी एक यूनिकॉर्न है। और सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज भारत पे में ये है कि रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया ने इन्हें बैंकिंग लाइसेंस दे दिया, जबकि सब कुछ जानते हुए इन्हें आरबीआई ने बैंकिंग लाइसेंस दे दिया। अब एक कंपनी जिसकी किताबों में 3000 करोड़ का लॉस हो तो उसको बैंकिंग लाइसेंस कैसे मिल सकता है? मोटी बात यह, क्योंकि इंडिया एक महान कंट्री है। यहां पे आपको अगर एक चपरासी की नौकरी भी चाहिए तो आपको बीकॉम होना चाहिए, एमकॉम होना चाहिए, या उससे भी बड़ी डिग्रीज आपके पास होनी चाहिए चपरासी की नौकरी के लिए। लेकिन बैंक लाइसेंस लेने के लिए उस कंपनी का प्रॉफिटेबल होना या नहीं होना, इसमें कोई मैटर नहीं करता। पहले हमने देखा कि कैसे लॉस मेकिंग कंपनीज को एक के बाद एक अप्रूवल मिली, जैसे कि पेटीएम, जैसे कि जोमेटो, जैसे कि नाइकिया, पॉलिसी बाजार, कार ट्रेड और ऐसी कई कंपनीज। सिर्फ पेटीएम में ही इन्वेस्टर्स को 90,000 करोड़ का नुकसान हुआ, सिर्फ पेटीएम में ही। लेकिन मजाल है भारत की किसी मीडिया संस्थान में जो इस बात को बोल दे कि सिर्फ पेटीएम पे ही इन्वेस्टर को 90,000 करोड़ का नुकसान हुआ है। और अगर हम पेटीएम, जोमेटो, नाइकिया, पॉलिसी बाजार और कार ट्रेड को जोड़ दें, इन पांचों को, तो टोटल नुकसान जो इन्वेस्टर्स को हुआ है वो 2 लाख करोड़ से ज्यादा है। और अगर आपको ये लग रहा है कि ये नुकसान अभी इतना ही रहेगा तो आप थोड़े समय वेट करें, आपको पता चल जाएगा। अब बात भारत पे करते हैं दोबारा। तो भारत पे ने सिर्फ फाइनेंशियल ईयर 21 में 3000 करोड़ के आसपास का लॉस बुक किया और इन्हें आरबीआई ने बैंकिंग लाइसेंस दे दिया। अब इसमें समझने वाली बात यह है, रजनीश कुमार जो एसबीआई के एक्स चेयरमैन हैं, उनकी कहानी भारत पे से कैसे लिंक है ये आप खुद गूगल पे देखिएगा। अभी तक आपको आरबीआई की तरफ से या मीडिया की तरफ से ये नहीं बताया गया होगा कि एक लॉस मेकिंग कंपनी को कैसे बैंकिंग का लाइसेंस मिल गया, बट अभी उस पर और आते हैं। अब समझने वाली बात यह है कि मेरे पास एक डॉक्यूमेंट है जो कि मैंने मनी कंट्रोल से डाउनलोड किया। ग्रोवर एंड हिज वाइफ, अश्नीर ग्रोवर की बात करते हैं। अश्नीर ग्रोवर एंड हिज वाइफ माधुरी जैन ग्रोवर exited the company after allegation of misappropriation of funds surfaced following governance audit conducted by Alvarez and Marshall and PwC. PwC ये वही PwC है जो सत्यमाली है, और ये वही PwC है जो पेटीएम के ऑडिटर है। पेटीएम की किताबों में एक्यूमुलेटेड डेफिसिट, जिसे कि नेगेटिव रिटेन्ड अर्निंग्स भी कहा जाता है, वो 12,500 करोड़ तक पहुंच चुकी है। बिल्कुल ठीक सुना, नेगेटिव रिटेन्ड अर्निंग 12,500 करोड़ तक पहुंच चुकी है। लेकिन क्या आपको पता है? नहीं पता होगा, कभी भी नहीं पता होगा। और अकाउंटिंग वाइज अगर आप हर साल, अगर हम पेटीएम की बात करें तो हर साल पेटीएम लॉस रिपोर्ट कर रहा है। फाइनेंशियल ईयर 22 के नंबर्स भी आ जाएंगे, 2-3 महीने बाद आ जाएंगे। क्या अभी तक पीडब्ल्यूसी ने इन्वेस्टर को यह बताया कि आपकी किताबों में 12,500 करोड़ का नेगेटिव डेफिसिट है, यानी कि हर साल ये लॉस कैरी फॉरवर्ड हो रहा है? क्या बताया? नहीं। लेकिन गवर्नेंस ऑडिट करेगा पीडब्ल्यूसी। एक्चुअली हिंदी मीडिया को ऐसा लगता है कि दुनिया में सारे समझदार लोग बढ़ चुके हैं। नंबर 1 कि हम जो भी बोलेंगे सामने वाला बंदा उस चीज पे ट्रस्ट कर लेगा। दूसरी चीज, दुनिया में किसी आदमी को अकाउंटिंग और फाइनेंस की नॉलेज नहीं है, तो हम जिस आदमी को इडियट बनाने की कोशिश करेंगे वो बन जाएगा। अब सुनिए, Grover and his wife Madhuri Jain Grover exited the company after allegation of misappropriation of funds surfaced following a governance audit conducted by Alvarez and Marshall and PwC. Grover exited the company in a late night resignation on 28 फरवरी। भाई, अगर तूने कुछ किया नहीं, अगर तेरी बैकग्राउंड क्लीन है, तूने किसी भी फंड को मिसअप्रोप्रिएट नहीं किया, तो तूने रिजाइन क्यों किया? अगर तूने कोई फंड मिसअप्रोप्रिएट नहीं किया तो रिजाइन क्यों किया? कंपनी में रहो ना। ऐसे कितने इंसिडेंट्स हैं जब लोगों ने कुछ नहीं किया, उन पे फॉल्स एलिगेशंस लगी और वो उस कंपनी में टिके। लेकिन यहां सीन अलग है। ये वही अश्नीर ग्रोवर है जो शार्क इंडिया, जो कि भारत का एक रियलिटी शो है, उसमें लोगों को जज करता है। मतलब एक ऑनेस्ट एंटरप्रेन्योर जो अपनी मेहनत से अपनी कंपनी खड़ी करना चाहता है, उसको ये आदमी जज करता है। ये अश्नीर ग्रोवर की बैकग्राउंड है। अब सोचो शार्क इंडिया की क्या बैकग्राउंड होगी। शार्क इंडिया में ऐसे बहुत सारे कलाकार हैं जिनकी खुद की बैकग्राउंड जीरो है, लेकिन वो दूसरे को जज कर रहे हैं। यानी मोटी बात यह है कि एक ड्रग एडिक्ट एक टीटोटलर को जज कर रहा है। तो इंग्लिश में टीटोटलर का मतलब होता है कि एक ऐसा आदमी जो ना ड्रिंक करता है ना स्मोक करता है। जैसे मैं ड्रिंक करता हूं ना मैं स्मोक करता हूं, तो मैं टीटोटलर हूं। तो एक ड्रग एडिक्ट एक टीटोटलर को जज कर रहा है। ये अश्नीर ग्रोवर की बैकग्राउंड है। और इस शार्क इंडिया को भारत की चोर मीडिया ने हाइप दिया हुआ है। CNBC TV 18 पे एक प्रोग्राम आता है CNBC यंग टक्स, और आप अगर उस प्रोग्राम को ध्यान से देखेंगे तो आपको यह पता चल जाएगा कि भारत की मीडिया किस हद तक बिक चुकी है। वो इन स्टार्टअप्स के हाथों इस हद तक बिक चुकी है कि ये कुछ भी कर रही है। पेटीएम, ओला, उबर, स्विगी, जोमैटो, लेंसकार्ट, दिल्लीवेरी, भरत पे और ऐसे जैसे कितने कलाकार आज तक कभी प्रॉफिट नहीं हुए। बायजूस अपने आप को 18 बिलियन डॉलर की कंपनी क्लेम करता है। 18 बिलियन डॉलर, यानी कि अगर आईएनआर टर्म्स में लगाया जाए तो 1,15,000 करोड़ के आसपास बनता फिगर। यानी बायजूस अपने आप को 1,15,000 करोड़ की कंपनी क्लेम करता है। और बायजूस की फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट उठा के देख लो, आइंस्टाइन का बाप भी इनकी वैल्यूएशन को जस्टिफाई नहीं कर पाएगा, तो मैं तो चीज क्या हूं। लेकिन क्या आज तक कंपटीशन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया या किसी भी रेगुलेटरी बॉडी ने इस पे कुछ बोला? नहीं बोला। क्या किसी मीडिया संस्थान ने इस बात पे बोला कि एक कंपनी जिसने आज तक कभी प्रॉफिट नहीं कमाया, वो कंपनी अपने आप को 18 बिलियन डॉलर की वैल्यूएशन पे क्लेम कर दिया? अब मैं कंक्लूड करने की कोशिश करता हूं। आपको जान के खुशी होगी कि भारत पे अगले 2 साल में लिस्ट हो रहा है। मैं नहीं कहना, ये उसका सीईओ बोल रहा है। उसके सीईओ ने पब्लिक स्टेटमेंट दी है कि हम अगले 2 साल में आईपीओ को प्लानिंग कर रहे हैं। अब ऐसी कंपनी जिस पे फाइनेंशियल एप्रोप्रिएशन का वो लगा, मेरे पास प्रिंट आउट्स हैं जिसमें इंप्लॉइज ने पब्लिक डोमेन में कहा कि हमें सैलरी नहीं मिली। 3,000 करोड़ का जिस कंपनी का घाटा है मात्र 1 साल का, अगर वो बंदा पब्लिक में स्टेटमेंट दे रहा है कि मैं आईपीओ लिस्ट करने की सोच रहा हूं, तो सोचो वो कितना कॉन्फिडेंट है कि उसको अप्रूवल मिल जाएगा। तभी तो बोल रहे हो कि भाई, तभी तो बोल रहा है ना मैं आईपीओ अप्रूवल करूंगा, वरना क्यों मिलेगा। पूरे का पूरा सिस्टम कंप्रोमाइज्ड है आज के समय में। कहने को हमारे पास बहुत सारे रेगुलेटर्स हैं, लेकिन पूरे का पूरा सिस्टम कंप्रोमाइज्ड है। 3,000 करोड़ कमाने वाली कंपनी की मार्केट कैप 4.5 लाख करोड़ पहुंच जाती है। पेटीएम जैसी कंपनी को 2150 पे लिस्टिंग का अप्रूवल मिल जाता है। जोमैटो जैसी कंपनी अपने आप को 8 बिलियन की वैल्यूएशन पे क्लेम करती है। बायजूस अपने आप को 18 बिलियन की वैल्यूएशन पे क्लेम करती है। रजनीश कुमार जो एसबीआई के एक्स चेयरमैन है, उनका भारत पे से क्या लिंक है, ये अपने आप गूगल पे चेक कर लेना। मेरे पास एग्जांपल्स की कोई कमी नहीं है। आज हम उस मकाम पर पहुंच चुके हैं कि हमारे पास एक बॉक्स है। मान लीजिए आपके पास एक बॉक्स है जिसमें सारे काले कंचे हैं। आपको उसमें से एक वाइट कंचा ढूंढना है, यानी कि सारे चोरों में से एक ईमानदार आदमी ढूंढना है। अब मैं आज के फेसबुक कनेक्ट को एंड करूंगा। मैं आपको एक बात बता रहा हूं, और मुझे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि मेरे को कितने व्यूज मिलते हैं, कितने लाइक्स मिलते हैं, कितने डिसलाइक्स मिलते हैं। मुझे इस चीज से कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता। मेरे लिए सब्सक्राइबर्स, व्यूज, लाइक, काउंट्स, ये सब इमटेरियल चीजें। मैं आपको एक बार बता रहा हूं, हम उस डायरेक्शन की तरफ मूव कर रहे हैं जहां सिर्फ बर्बादी हमारा वेट कर रही है, सिर्फ बर्बादी। उबर को लिस्ट हुए 3 साल के लगभग होने वाले हैं, लगभग। हाँ, मान लीजिए अभी तक उसका शेयर प्राइस आईपीओ के शेयर प्राइस तक नहीं पहुंचा, और आप सिर्फ वेट कीजिए। क्या किसी रेगुलेटरी संस्थान में दम है जो भारत पे के चेयरमैन या सीईओ को बुला के बोले, भाई तू 3,000 करोड़ का लॉस डिक्लेयर करके पब्लिक में स्टेटमेंट दे रहा है कि तू आईपीओ की प्लानिंग कर रहा है, फिर तो मैं भी कल एक कंपनी खोल लेता हूं, हजारों करोड़ का लॉस दिखा के आईपीओ लेके पब्लिक का पैसे से खेलूंगा। बट इस फेसबुक कनेक्ट के बाद बहुत लोगों को फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा, लोग फिर भी पैसा लगाएंगे। वरदाना लर्निंग सॉल्यूशंस को अभी अभी आईपीओ का अप्रूवल मिला है। आप एक बार उनकी बैलेंस शीट चेक कर लीजिएगा। दिस इज राहुल मगन फ्रॉम ट्रेजरी कंसल्टिंग ग्रुप. जिसको ये फेसबुक कनेक्ट देख के तकलीफ हुई हो, मेरा नंबर है 9899242978. 9899242978. ये सारे तुर्रम खान, पेटीएम, ओला, उबर, स्विगी, जोमेटो, लेंसकार्ट, बायजूस और लिस्ट लंबी है. ये सारे तुर्रम खान एक चीज समझ लो कि ट्रेजरी कंसल्टिंग को गोल्डमैन सैक्स भी आज चुनौती नहीं दे सकता. तो तुम तो चीज ही क्या हो. ये जो वैल्यूएशन तुम मार्केट में सबको बोल रहे हो ना, तुम्हारी वैल्यूएशन उसकी 1/4 भी नहीं है. 1/4 भी नहीं है. उतनी तो तुम भूल जाओ, क्योंकि आइंस्टाइन का बाप भी एक लॉस मेकिंग कंपनी को 18 बिलियन जस्टिफाई नहीं कर पाएगा. और भारत के इन्वेस्टर जो सो रहे हैं, उनको बहुत जल्दी एक बड़ा झटका लगेगा, वो भी जोर से. याद रखना, पाप करने वाला गलत नहीं होता, पाप को सपोर्ट करने वाला भी गलत होता है. और हम पाप को सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं. एक दिन ऐसा आएगा जब ये कंपनियां आप पे राज करेंगी, सिवाय इधर छोड़ के. तो जिसको तकलीफ हुई हो, उसका नंबर, मेरा नंबर 9899242978. जरा मैं भी तो देखूं कि कौन से वैल्यूएशन प्रिंसिपल के हिसाब से बायजूस 18 बिलियन और भारत पे ये एक यूनिकॉर्न बन गया. दिस इज राहुल मगन. सी यू इन नेक्स्ट फेसबुक कनेक्ट. हैव अ ग्रेट टाइम ahead. Good evening. This side Rahul Magan here as a Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting, and also a venture capitalist. As we speak, Treasury Consulting is a multinational headquartered group based out Singapore, and we are 100% profitable concern. Like I promised you that every night I'm doing the Facebook Connect. So today also I'm doing the Facebook Connect. But before I continue with the Facebook Connect, there is one thing which I would like to let you know, which is that now, in case you are missing the Facebook Connects because of the timing difference, you can refer on the YouTube channel. So the Facebook Connect of 11th, 12th and 13th April. 11th, 12th and 13th April are live on the YouTube. So even if you missed that, you can refer them on the YouTube channel. So today is practically 15th, but I treat this as 14th. So the 14th would be available probably by end of day tomorrow. From 2018, I am raising one voice on the YouTube channel, and that is the startups in India are standing on the fake valuations. Although I have given ample of evidences regarding the same, ample of evidences, but having said that, I keep searching for new things. Today, while reading the newspaper, I got a very good data which I think I should speak on. Of course, I would be making the YouTube video also. So the data is that the Indian startups have started raising the debt. Now, what the hell is that? So when you have a startup, you generally raised the equity. Either this is the seed funding, Series A, Series B, Series D, and this stupidity continues. That's a separate thing, that the formula, which is post money valuation, is equals to pre money valuation plus amount invested, the most fraudulent formula of the venture capitalist, and common sense, the regulators are in sync with that. Now, since the equity funding is dried because the companies are in huge debt. So let me give you an example. In March, Eruditus, who claims to be an agtech company, because everyone in the world claims to be an agtech company. Now, whether this is Byju's, whether this is Eruditus, and there are many. In March, Eruditus has raised 350 million. 350 million, which is near about 2,700 crores in debt from CPPIB. Now, CPPI means Canadian Pension Fund. And you would be surprised to know that this is a term loan. And in this term loan, the 5-year term loan, and the coupon is 8.5 to 9.5%. So 2,700 crore into 9.5% is the yearly interest they need to pay. It's a common sense. Even a 10th fail can compute that, which is near about 250 crores. So every year you would be paying 250 crores as an interest cost. And still you expect these startups one good day would become profitable. In November, which means the November went by, the Byju's raised 5-year $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion at a yield of 6.8%, which means near about 70 to 75 million dollar, which is not less than 500 crores. I repeat, 70 to 72 million dollar, not lesser than 500 crore interest to be paid on a yearly basis. And we all understand that Byju's is also a heavily loss-making company. Now, that's a separate thing, that Byju's claim to be a 18 billion plus valuation company, which they are not. Because a loss-making company cannot be 18 billion valuation company. Ola also raised $500 million, 500 million at a yield of 7.81%, which precisely means near about you would say $40 million. 40 million means around 280 to 300 crores of interest on a yearly basis. Ola, Eruditus, and Byju's, the three names who came in public, and all three names are in losses. You know, the one thing I would like to warn people very carefully, and I know that the whole system of India is compromised. Whole system of India is compromised, because if I hold that information, which is I got it from public domain, then common sense is regulator also hold that information. But regulators are not worried, because they know that they would be giving IPO approval to these companies. That is something which is very clear, and this is something which had happened, which includes Paytm, Zomato, Nikia, Policy Bazaar, and many such companies. The purpose of taking venture debt is very clear, and that is you have no source of equity funding. And the interest cost which you would be paying, you have to pay because it's a debt. This would eat away your P&L, which is already eaten. So common sense is we need to be very much aware of the fact that we are next to the companies who are making us idiot. Whether it is Byju's, whether this is Ola and so on and so forth. Ola is throughout loss-making company. Till now, Ola never reported profit and still they got $500 million of funding. I also would like to discuss something in this Facebook Connect, a very important thing, which is called sovereign risk. Now, this is first thing which I wanted to discuss. I already done that. When we were doing MBA in 2005, we being told that there is a concept called sovereign risk, which means that whenever the governments take up the funding, they would never default. And I raised my hand in the class and asked that what is the guarantee that the government never defaults? Although I got no answer and I was asked to leave the class as usual, nothing new. Today, when Sri Lanka collapsed and near about 51 billion, yes, 51 billion worth of debt is defaulted, and God knows how much the local debt to be defaulted, because this is the external debt. Common sense is local debt to be defaulted. This raised a very important question in the system which we all are ignoring. And by the time we woke up, the things would be out of our hand, which is in the year 2022 and onwards, do we left with a concept called sovereign risk? I don't think so. We do not left with a concept called sovereign debt because the governments are defaulting. Today, International Monetary Fund started talks with 3 countries. Number 1, Sri Lanka. Number 2, Pakistan. Number 3, Tunisia, regarding the help in the debt default. As we speak, if we leave the politics aside, which you know how it is, Pakistan is standing at a sovereign debt of near about around 43 trillion. 43 trillion, which is a huge amount for Pakistan. And this debt is ballooning up. So guys, to conclude the today's session, we are heading up towards a big default. Number 1, these startups who are not getting any form of equity funding now, and now they are raising the debt. That's a separate thing that the paid, sold and corrupt media will never reflect that. That's a separate thing. Having said that, another thing is the sovereign risk, which is there. Because after the collapse of Sri Lanka and the probable collapse of Pakistan, Tunisia and many countries, very soon you will see the bust would come. And this bust would hit very hard. This is Rahul from Treasury Consulting Group. Treasury Consulting never worried about the feedback. We hardly bothered about like, views, comments, subscribers. For us, they all are immaterial. Because we tell you the fact. And there are less people who wanted to understand the fact. So we hardly bother. Anyways, this is Rahul Magan from Treasury Consulting Group. You know my personal number 9899242978. I repeat 9899242978. Have a great time ahead. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Good evening. This side, Rahul Magan here, as a Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting, and also a venture capitalist. As we speak, Treasury Consulting is a multinational headquartered group based out India, Singapore, and Hong Kong. And we are 100% profitable concern. Before I start, I would like to give you a pleased news, which is we crossed near about 2000 videos on Takatak. So as we speak, we crossed near about 2000 videos on Takatak. And another good news is we crossed near about 2050 photos. Photos means the financial market photos on ShareChat. So as we speak, we crossed near about 2000 videos covering financial markets on Takatak, and near about, I would say, 2050 photos on ShareChat. The journey is very long and we keep you posted. Today, I would like to cover a very important topic which is happening in India, and unfortunately the investor community is not aware about that. Like I promised, we would have a Facebook Connect almost every day, but time is a constraint. Henceforth, we have Facebook Connect always in the nights. Now, before 2020, Indian corporates were raising a huge amount of money, which is called debt. And when the COVID struck in 2020, Indian corporates got excuse. And what the hell is excuse? That due to COVID, the working capital is facing limitations. Henceforth, we are raising the debt. Now, effective 2020, Indian corporates raised a huge quantity of debt. Now, when I am using a word corporate, I don't mean a corporate. I mean corporate, bank, non-banking financial corporation, these so-called startups, and even government-owned organizations. They all are raising a huge amount of money. So in the last 1 year, whether it is banks, whether it is financial institutions, whether it is non-banking financial corporations, or whether this is corporates, they have raised a huge amount of money. Now, debt is accumulating in the books, and end result, we all aware that bust is on the cards. So in this week, 3 real estate companies in NCR, National Capital Region, got, I would say, almost bankrupt. Number 1 is Supertech. Number 2 is the Logix Group. The news is coming about Logix Group. And very recently, one more company is almost on the verge of bankruptcy. There are many other banks and financial institutions, those who raised a huge amount of money or on the verge of raising a huge amount of money. Keeping this in mind, investor community in India needs to be very careful, because if you are taking a share of a company who is heavily indebted, then you are inviting the trouble. Now, there is a concept called shareholding pledge. So let me give you a simplistic example. Suppose there is a company called Ramlal Chola Bhatura, and Ramlal Chola Bhatura is listed. Since Ramlal Chola Bhatura is listed, what happens, if they pledge, say they pledge 40% of their stake to a bank, or probably a financial institution, or probably any private equity or a venture capitalist firm, keeping this in mind, this Ramlal Chola Bhatura stock is not a good stock to invest. The reason being 40% of the equity is already pledged, which means, God forbid, if anything happens, then the lender, it could be private equity, venture debt, probably a bank, they would be invoking that pledge. And once they would be invoking that pledge, in that sense, it would be a disaster for Ramlal Chola Bhatura. All those investors who invested in Ramlal Chola Bhatura would be facing a deep mess. The reason being, their share is pledged. Their shares were pledged and now they are invoked. Since they are invoked, now the new management would be different. So the investor community needs to understand that they should not invest in a company where share price is pledged. This is something which is very important to understand. In this last 1 year, the Indian capital market, precisely speaking, witnessed many companies who accumulated a huge quantity of debt. But irrespective of the fact that the share prices got hike. Now, since the share prices got hike, in that sense, sooner or later they would be, I would say they would be busting because there is no other option. They would be busting. This is something which investor community needs to understand. And I would like to say, debt level is rising. We have seen in case of Sri Lanka, we have seen in case of Pakistan, and now we are witnessing many more countries who are joining this league. Please be very careful, because if you would be investing, then you would be in trouble very soon. Because if you are expecting corona or any other virus or any other eventuality, the probability of having any other eventuality is not there, then you need to learn that, because there is a big probability. This is what I would like to discuss today, our Facebook session. To answer a question, which sector will give more advantages in 2022? I have already said this in my YouTube videos that there are 3 sectors I strongly feel those who have a huge potential. Number 1 is definitely the oil and energy sector, like Russia-Ukraine war. Before Russia-Ukraine war, oil was near about 70 and now oil is near about 110. Today, Russian TV, basically the television channel of Russia, they said that World War III has already started. And I think they are not wrong in that. World War III has already started. It's a matter of time when the war between Russia and Ukraine would shape up as a world war. Oil and energy would jump. Like, take an example of gas, take an example of gasoline, take an example of CNG, take an example of Brent, or any other oil and gas product, you will see there is a substantial rise. But there is a clause. The clause is that the oil producers would get benefit as compared to oil importers. So example, there are companies, I'm not quoting any name, there are companies who are importing the oil and there are companies who are producing the oil. There is a difference. Those who are importing the oil, I'm not giving any name, they might be in a serious trouble because of the oil volatility. But those who are producing the oil, they would be the greater beneficiary. I have given the appropriate hint. Second, I think that is a renewable sector. I personally feel that renewable sector is having a great potential. Corona is one thing, Ukraine-Russia war is another thing. The very important fact is the glaciers, the global warming. We are hardly any concern about global warming. Global warming is shaping up. Since global warming is shaping up, it would have substantial impact on the renewable sector. There would be a push towards the renewable sector. Of course, India would also get that push. Keeping this in mind, it is wise to invest in a renewable sector, but I'm not giving any names because I have stopped giving any names, because once you give the names, people start copying it. Third sector I feel which would have a huge potential is the metal sector. In the eventuality of the war, in the eventuality of the ecological disorder, by ecological disorder means the glacier melting, the global warming, and all these kind of eventualities, the metal sector will always go up because of the input cost, which means that today the input cost of aluminium, say X, it would substantially jump up if there would be any ecological disorder. Of course, if the input costs jump up, the companies, those who are selling the steel, nickel, iron ore, and all these kind of stuff, they will hike the prices. I feel these three sectors are very important in another 2 to 3 years. And of course, the banking, but Indian banking is sitting on a huge non-performing asset. And I have raised the concern many times, let it be very honest. So at the end, I would like to warn people that the many corporates in India, the debt is rising. I have given my definition of the corporate, let it be honest, rest is all your call. But today I am pleased that the TikTok crossed 2000 videos, ShareChat crossed 2000 images, more is on the cards. Like promised, we have one Facebook Connect every night, and the copy, basically the video of that Facebook Connect, would upload it on the YouTube channel probably in a day or so. This is Rahul Magan from Treasury Consulting Group. You knew my personal number 9899242978. I repeat 9899242978. Thank you and have a great time ahead. Good evening. This side Rahul Makan here as a Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting, and also a venture capitalist. As we speak, Treasury Consulting is a multinational headquartered group based out India, Singapore, and Hong Kong. In today's Facebook Live, we would be covering a very important topic, which is why foreign banks are quitting India. So what is happening is that we are very busy in the sense we are very busy in chasing the politics, in chasing the religious background events, and all these kind of stuff. But one thing where we are not busy is that the foreign banks are quitting India. It is not the foreign bank, rather foreign automobile companies are also quitting India. I worked as a corporate treasurer for American companies, and you name the bank I dealt with. I dealt with almost all banks of the globe, whether this is Standard Chartered, UBS, Barclays, Deutsche, JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, and you just name, I dealt with. Even today, Treasury Consulting is a hedge fund, and we deal with many financial institutions. So we are dealing with almost all kind of financial institutions. But in the last several years, we have seen that foreign banks started quitting the India. Now, when we say the foreign banks are quitting India, I mean to say either they quit completely or they quit partially. Now, what is a structure called foreign bank, and why India do need foreign bank? No country of the globe, I repeat, no country of the globe can be a superpower or a global financial center until otherwise you have foreign banks. US is an exception because in US their own banks are very powerful, which is Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Citi, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and many. Henceforth, United States is an exception. But if we keep United States apart, then I doubt we do have any exception. There is no exception in that regards. Now, having said that, foreign banks play a very important role in any country. Example, foreign banks provide the great product service which Indian banks cannot provide. Example, the SWIFT architecture. Example, the letter of credit, standby letter of credit, standby bank guarantee, and many more products. So let's take an example of DBS India. We are doing banking with DBS India in India and Singapore. The kind of product DBS is offering, you doubt whether any Indian bank is offering. You name whether it is State Bank of India, whether this is Punjab National Bank or any other Indian bank. You knew that the Indian banks phased out near about 11 lakh crores, which is 150 billion US dollars in the last 7 to 8 years in the form of non-performing assets. So I have the data with me. You know that I never speak until I have the data. And I am planning a detailed video in that regards. I collated some data and some data some data is under collation. So I noted the name of the banks, those who quitted India or partially quitted India. When I say quitted, I again repeat that quitted doesn't mean 100%. Quitted means either 100% or it is partial. Number one is the Standard Chartered Bank. Number two is the Westpac. Number three is the UBS, United Bank of Switzerland. Number four is the RBS, Royal Bank of Scotland. I'll take a pause here. I remember when I was doing MBA in 2005, 2007, RBS, Royal Bank of Scotland used to be a big brand, and I remember my very close friend used to work in Royal Bank of Scotland, and he used to tell us the stories of the Royal Bank of Scotland, how the IT architecture, how big is the bank, the various and all other things. And when we were doing MBA, we were very fascinated that guys see all these big brands are in India, we will get a good job. But I hardly thought that by 2022, which means near about around 15 years from my MBA, majority of these foreign banks would have either quitted or trimmed it down. So I again repeat, Standard Chartered Bank, Westpac, UBS, RBS, Royal Bank of Scotland, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, HSBC, Hong Kong Shanghai Banking Corporation, DB, Deutsche Bank, Barclays, and First Rand, and not to mention Citi. So if I count, then it is near about 11. I can name more banks also. I can even name, let's take an example. Why Goldman Sachs, the number one investment bank of the globe, the bank whose asset book is near about 1 trillion plus, whose derivative book alone is near about 1 trillion plus. Why Goldman Sachs is not interested to set up a big banking structure in India? Let's take another example. Why did Citibank quitted India? Indian media is corrupted. I repeat, Indian media is corrupted at that level that they will not discuss this because their bosses will never allow these facts to get discussed. Why did Citi quitted India? Why did Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, the Wells Fargo, Bank of America, why these institutions are not expanding in India? Why did JP Morgan is solely restricted to maximum, you can say, Delhi and Mumbai? Why did so? These all are big questions which we need to answer. Because if I see the names, which includes Standard Chartered, Westpac, UBS, Royal Bank of Scotland, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, HSBC, Deutsche, Barclays, First Rand, we will get to know that the list is expanding. And the day is not far that, like in the last 15 years, around 10 plus banks either quitted India or they melted down, trim it down. Probably in another 5 to 7 years, all foreign banks will quit India. What we need to see is the loss which is happening to the financial system because the product they are not releasing in the financial system. We need to see how much job losses only because these foreign banks are not in India. So just imagine if Standard Chartered, Westpac, UBS, RBS, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, HSBC, Deutsche, Barclays, First Rand, if all these banks would have in India, then see the kind of, I would say, jobs we would have in India. How many youngsters would have got the job? But we never thought about that. And why did we never thought about that? Because we even do not know this amount. And I'm telling you that if this trend would continue, and the probability of this trend to continue is much, much higher, then probably in next 5 to 6 years, the rest foreign banks will quit India. And the infrastructure provided by the Sarkari banks. And you even know the infrastructure provided by the private banks also. They themselves being fined by Reserve Bank of India many times. So please think about that. This is Rahul Magan from Treasury Consulting Group. You knew my personal number 9899242978. Have a great time ahead. Good evening. This is Rahul Magan here as a Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting, and also a venture capitalist. As we speak, Treasury Consulting is a multinational headquartered group. आज हम बात करेंगे एक ऐसे टॉपिक पे जो कि बहुत हॉट है, एक ऐसा टॉपिक जो अब मल्टी डायमेंशनल होता जा रहा है. सो लेट्स टेक एन एग्जांपल. आज रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर को 50 डेज से ज्यादा हो गए और रशिया ने यूक्रेन में अपनी पूरी ताकत लगा दी. फिर चाहे वो आर्टिलरी यूनिट्स हो, फिर चाहे वो मिसाइल्स हो, चाहे वो आई वुड से उनके टैंक्स हो, फिर चाहे वो उनकी आर्टिलरी यूनिट हो, फिर चाहे वो उनके सोल्जर्स हो. यहाँ तक कि एक मीडिया रिपोर्ट के हिसाब से एलाइट फोर्सेस, अब एलाइट फोर्सेस होती हैं वो फोर्सेस जो कि बिल्कुल डेड एंड पे यूज़ की जाती हैं. तो डेड एंड का मतलब होता है एक ऐसा एंड जब सब कुछ हो गया, मतलब आपके पास कोई ज़्यादा संसाधन बचे नहीं. एक मीडिया आर्टिकल के हिसाब से रशिया ने अपनी एलाइट फोर्स भी यूक्रेन में यूज़ की है और उसके बावजूद रशिया विक्ट्री नहीं ले पा रहा है, जो कि एक अच्छी बात है, बहुत अच्छी बात है मेरे हिसाब से. लेकिन इसके 2 कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस आगे हो सकते हैं. पहला कंसिक्वेंसेस आउट ऑफ फ्रस्ट्रेशन और दूसरा आउट ऑफ मिलिट्री एक्सपेक्टेशन। तो आउट ऑफ फ्रस्ट्रेशन क्या होगा? पहले, अगर रशिया इसी तरीके से यूक्रेन में लूज करता रहा तो रशिया के पास दो वेपन्स और बचेंगे। पहला, रशिया केमिकल वेपन का यूज कर सकता है या न्यूक्लियर वेपन का यूज कर सकता है। यूक्रेन के प्रेसिडेंट ने इस चीज की बात पब्लिक डोमेन में भी कही है कि रशिया डेस्परेट स्टेट में आके अपना केमिकल वेपन या न्यूक्लियर वेपन यूज कर सकता है। अगर ऐसी कोई इवेंचुअलिटी होती है तो उस केस में स्पेशली केमिकल वेपन या न्यूक्लियर वेपन, आइदर ऑफ दैट, तो उस स्टेट में इसका इम्पैक्ट पूरी दुनिया की फाइनेंशियल हेल्थ, फाइनेंशियल मार्केट्स और मेंटल हेल्थ पे पड़ेगा। एग्जाम्पल, वर्ल्ड वॉर में जापान, हिरोशिमा, नागासाकी, हम सब ने हिस्ट्री में ये एग्जाम्पल्स पढ़े हैं, लेकिन आज तक उस न्यूक्लियर बम के जो इम्पैक्ट हैं वो वहाँ की जनरेशन में आते हैं आज तक, जबकि इस चीज़ को नियर अबाउट 50 ईयर्स से ज़्यादा हो गए। और ऐसे कई इंसिडेंट्स हैं दुनिया में जहाँ पे न्यूक्लियर वेपन का इस्तेमाल हुआ और कितनी जनरेशन्स उसको फेस कर रही हैं, क्योंकि पुतिन पे ज़बरदस्त सैंक्शंस लग रहे हैं, फिर चाहे वो यूएस हो, फिर चाहे वो यूरोप हो, यूरोपियन यूनियन हो, चाहे वो अलग अलग कंट्रीज़ हो, सिंगापुर हो या अलग अलग कंट्रीज, सब ने पुतिन पे सैंक्शन लगाए हैं सिवाय एक को छोड़ के, वो है चाइना। और चाइना और पुतिन की कितनी गहरी दोस्ती है ये तो सबको ही पता है। तो अब मोटी बात ये है कि अगर आउट ऑफ फ्रस्ट्रेशन पुतिन ने केमिकल या न्यूक्लियर वेपन, आइदर ऑफ दैट, का यूज किया तो उस केस में ग्लोबल फाइनेंशियल मार्केट को मेल्ट डाउन होने से कोई नहीं रोक पाएगा। हाँ, इवेंचुअलिटी वो रिकवर हो जाएगी, प्रोबेबली कितने समय में रिकवर होगी ये पता नहीं, लेकिन अगर ये न्यूज़ फ्लैश हुई कि रशिया ने केमिकल वेपन का यूज़ किया तो उसको उस इवेंचुअलिटी को तो कोई रोक नहीं पाएगा और उसका इम्पैक्ट पूरी दुनिया में होगा। तो कोई भी स्पेशल कंट्री को स्पेशल स्टेटस तो मिलेगा नहीं, ये भी एक फैक्ट है। और अगर मैं इंडिया की बात करूं तो पिछले 6 महीने में, यानी कि मार्च 2022 एंडिंग, फॉरेन पोर्टफोलियो इन्वेस्टर्स ने 1.5 लाख करोड़, यानी कि नियर अबाउट 1.5 ट्रिलियन विड्रॉ किए हैं या सेल आउट किए हैं। यानी कि एक पब्लिक इंफॉर्मेशन के हिसाब से फॉरेन पोर्टफोलियो इन्वेस्टर्स ने पिछले 6 महीने में 1.5 ट्रिलियन इंडियन रुपीस वर्थ ऑफ इक्विटीज सेल करी हैं। अब अगर रशिया केमिकल या न्यूक्लियर वेपन का यूज करता है तो इसका इम्पैक्ट इंडियन मार्केट्स पे भी डेफिनेटली पड़ेगा। और भारत की मीडिया तो इतनी ज़्यादा करप्ट हो चुकी है कि वो कभी भी इन्वेस्टर्स को इसके रिगार्डिंग वार्न नहीं करेगी। मैं आप सबसे सिर्फ इतनी रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहता हूं कि रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर ओवर नहीं हुई है। ये वॉर किसी भी डायरेक्शन में मूव हो सकती है आज के समय में, और इसके नेगेटिव डायरेक्शंस में जाने के चांस ज़्यादा हैं ना कि पॉजिटिव डायरेक्शन में। क्योंकि मुझे अच्छे से याद है कि आज से 15-20 दिन पहले एक आर्टिकल इंटरनेट पे फ्लैश हुआ था, जिसे कि मैं रेगुलरली पढ़ता रहता हूँ हर आर्टिकल को। उसके हिसाब से उस आर्टिकल ने ये डेडलाइन दी थी कि 15 अप्रैल तक रशिया विड्रॉ कर लेगा। 15 तो हो गई, रादर अब 18 हो गई, और मुझे विड्रॉ वाले सीन तो गई दिख नहीं रहे। तो गाइस बहुत ध्यान से चलें, और गलती से अगर रशिया यूएस क्लैश हो गया, क्योंकि बाइडेन यूक्रेन को वेपन्स, कैश या जो भी नेसेसरी चीज़ें होती हैं वो भेज रहा है। नाटो ऑलमोस्ट डिसफंक्शनल है। यूएन जनरल असेंबली वो भी डिसफंक्शनल है। यूएन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल वो भी डिसफंक्शनल है। डिसफंक्शनल का मतलब एक ऐसी संस्थाएं जिनका होना या ना होना एक बराबर है। वैसे अगर हम ध्यान से देखें तो रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर ने एक बहुत अच्छी चीज हमें सिखाई है। वो ये जिसे मैं पिछले कई सालों से अपने यूट्यूब चैनल और पब्लिक डोमेन में कह रहा हूं कि ये जो संस्थाएं ऊपर बैठी होती हैं, जो कि जिनके दम पर हम ये सोचते हैं कि हम सुरक्षित हैं, वो संस्थाएं नाम मात्र की होती हैं। रशिया यूक्रेन पे अटैक कर रहा है, फिर चाहे वो नाटो हो, यूएन जनरल काउंसिल हो, यूएन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल हो, यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स हो, यूनाइटेड किंगडम हो, इन्होंने कुछ नहीं किया। सिर्फ फॉर्मेलिटी के लिए इन्होंने सैंक्शंस लगा दिए, लेकिन उस सैंक्शंस का भी कोई नुकसान नहीं हुआ। मैं आपको लाइव एग्जांपल देता हूं। ऑयल एज वी स्पीक अराउंड 110 पे है और ऊपर जा रहा है। जैसे जैसे ऑयल ऊपर जाएगा रशिया को और बेनिफिट होगा। कॉमन सेंस, इसमें कोई पूरी चीज नहीं है। रशिया को और बेनिफिट होगा और ये बेनिफिट बढ़ता जाएगा। तो आप रशिया पे जितने मर्जी सैंक्शन लगा लें, लेकिन जैसे जैसे ऑयल और गैस के प्राइस ऊपर जाते जाएंगे वैसे वैसे रशिया को और बेनिफिट होता जाएगा और उसका करंट अकाउंट प्लस होता जाएगा। और इस मैथमेटिक्स को रशिया बहुत अच्छे से समझता है। इसलिए रशिया एक चीज में बिल्कुल क्लियर है कि आप सैंक्शन लगाओ या ना लगाओ, मुझे उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता। इसलिए दुनिया भर के इन्वेस्टर्स, ये स्पेसिफिक नहीं है कि मैं इंडियन इन्वेस्टर की बात कर रहा हूं, दुनिया भर के इन्वेस्टर्स बहुत केयरफुली इस सिचुएशन को ट्रैक करें, क्योंकि आने वाले समय में कुछ भी हो सकता है। कुछ भी हो सकता है कि कोई ऐसी इवेंचुअलिटी भी आए जो कि हमने सोची ही ना हो। यह भी हो सकता है, क्योंकि आज अगर पुतिन ने कोई भी मिस स्टेप लिया जिसकी प्रोबेबिलिटी है, लेट इट बी ऑनेस्ट, तो उसके डीप एंड डायर कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस होंगे। और वो कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस मात्र कुछ हफ्तों के लिए या कुछ डेज के लिए नहीं होंगे, वो कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस बहुत लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए होंगे। इसलिए कुछ भी डिसीजन लेने से पहले उसको ध्यान से सोचें और एनालिसिस करें। ये नहीं कि हिंदी मीडिया का कोई बिकाऊ एंकर आके बोलना शुरू हो गया कि फलाना स्टॉक ले लो या फलाना स्टॉक ले लो या निफ्टी 25,000 जाएगा, क्योंकि ऐसे कई कलाकार थे, रादर हैं, जो ये बोलते थे कि निफ्टी 25,000 जाएगा, जो ये बोलते थे सेंसेक्स 1 लाख जाएगा, लेकिन निफ्टी भी 25,000 पहुंच गया और सेंसेक्स भी 1 लाख पहुंच गया। इसमें घबराने की कोई जरूरत नहीं। इसलिए गाइस इस चीज को सोच के चलिए कि आने वाला समय काफी ट्रिकी है। वो इतना आसान नहीं है जितना आपको लगता है। हाँ, आपको लगता है वो अलग बात है। इसलिए बिल्कुल सुरक्षित होके और बहुत सेफली ट्रेड करें। गोल्ड, सिल्वर, प्लैटिनम, पैलेडियम, डायमंड, यूरेनियम, टाइटेनियम, आयरन ओर, कोल, निकल, जिंक, टिन और बहुत सारी ऐसी कमोडिटीज जिसका नाम मैंने नहीं लिया, ये सारी कमोडिटीज में बहुत जबरदस्त वॉलेटिलिटी आएगी अगर रशिया ने गलती से भी केमिकल वेपन या न्यूक्लियर वेपन का यूज कर दिया। बाकी आप समझदार हैं, हिंदी मीडिया देखते रहे, वो आपको अच्छे से गाइड करेंगे। दिस इज राहुल मगन फ्रॉम ट्रेजरी कंसल्टिंग ग्रुप। यू न्यू माई पर्सनल नंबर 9899242978। Thank you very much. This is the last Facebook Connect for the day. See you around. Good evening. This side Rahul Magan here is a Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting, and also a venture capitalist. As we speak, Treasury Consulting is a multinational headquartered group. Today, on 18th April 2022, in our Facebook Connect, we would be talking a very important concept, which is the foreign portfolio investors. But before that, I would like to give you a good news, which is our Takatak channel, which means the short app on the Takatak. We crossed near about 2,000 plus short videos. 2,000 plus short videos. And probably by December 2022, we are planning to cross near about 4,000 plus videos. Today, I would be covering a very important topic, which is called foreign portfolio investors. Like I said that probably almost every day we are doing a Facebook Connect. In this, we would be talking a very important topic. So this is the basically the article which I downloaded from the internet. And this article speaks about the foreign portfolio investors. So first of all, we need to understand that in the relevance of Indian market, strictly speaking, there are three kinds of investors. Number one, the retail investors. Number two, the foreign portfolio investors. Number three, the the domestic institutional investors. But the biggest question is the foreign portfolio investors. That is what we need to learn today. The last few months being very volatile in the financial market. And I strongly feel that the next few months would continue to be volatile. Example, as we speak, oil is near about 113, while Japanese yen already touched 127. Euro is moving towards 1.009, while GBP is extremely volatile. So would be palladium, platinum, gold, silver. Just like today, gold was near about 194, very close to 2000, you would say, very close to 2000. But in the same day, rather after few hours, when it was almost 1995, gold touched to 1977. And as we speak, the gold is near about 1977, which means near from around $2,000 to 1977. Now you can very well expect or judge the volatility we are having in the gold, silver, almost everything we are having. Now, foreign portfolio investors are consistently selling in India. That is a separate thing that the paid, sold and corrupt media of India is hardly bothered, because they knew one thing, that the Indian investors do not have any knowledge. They watch the TV. Since they watch the TV, they are being misguided almost every possible day. So let's take two live examples, and no one can deny these live examples. Number one is the TCS, Tata Consultancy Services. When it comes to Tata Consultancy Services, TCS, a substantial hype is being created. Number one, 18,000 crores worth of buyback. Many media channels, paid speakers went and said that TCS would be touching 4,500. And I was like, what the hell you are talking? Like today, TCS is, when at that point of time, TCS was around 3,600, and you are saying TCS would be touching 4,500. Anyways, as usual, I was like, let them speak. You can check yourself where TCS is today. Even after substantial hype, which is created by Tata Consultancy Services, investors lost heavily in TCS. But that's a separate thing that the paid media will never cover this. Second is the Infosys. A substantial hype was generated around Infosys also. Like Infosys will move to 1900, Infosys is this, that, something. But the result came. Now, since the result came, we got to know that near about 48,000 crores. You heard me right? 48,000 crores worth of investors' wealth eroded only in Infosys. 48,000 crores. And if you look at Hindi media, then Hindi media created a substantial hype around Infosys. And this is one of the reasons why the people in India, specifically talking, they are losing. Because they keep searching the Hindi media. Now, the article which I have got, this clearly tells us that in the last 6 months, ended March 2022. So, in the last 6 months, ended March 2022, the foreign portfolio investors quitted near about 1.48 lakh crores. You heard me right? 1.48 lakh crores, which means 1.48 trillion. It means 1,48,000 crores. 1,48,000 crores worth of equities is sold by foreign portfolio investors in the last 6 months. As we speak, even in April, they sold. So, from the last several months, foreign portfolio investors are consistently selling in the Indian market. And they are not sparing any sector, whether this is a real estate sector, whether this is a finance sector, whether this is a IT sector, whether this is the NBFC sector or any sector, they are not sparing any sector. So let's take an example. There are many IT companies whose stocks were like, oh my God, it is like beyond the pocket of most of the investors. I can name these stocks, but I'm not naming it. But now look at their valuation. Their valuation came down heavily, which is a clear evidence that the foreign portfolio investors are driving the Indian market. It's a clear-cut evidence that foreign portfolio investors are driving the Indian market. But it also raises two important questions. Number one, if foreign portfolio investors sold 1.8 lakh crores or 1,48,000 crores in the Indian market, then who bought it? Of course, domestic institutional investors bought it. Common sense. But if domestic institutional investors bought it, then in which script they invested? Because we have seen in the latest past that the domestic institutional investors invested in the loss-making companies, which include Zomato, Paytm, Nikia, Policybazaar, Cartrade, Devnani International, Barbecue Nation, and many other loss-making companies. They invested in these loss-making companies. But unfortunately, this granularity of the data is not available as far as the India is concerned. Henceforth, it is difficult to tell, but probably sooner or later, we would get to know in which scripts domestic institutional investors invested. But having said that, from the data which I received from the internet, and I'm definitely planning a detailed analytical video on my YouTube channel, this data is a evidence that Indian market is 100% controlled by foreign institutional investors, because one day the stock move higher, other day the stock go down. If foreign institutional investors are buying, stocks go higher. If they are selling, stocks go down. This is how it works. But please be note that there are many headwinds we have in the upcoming time, which includes the US interest rate. US has already raised interest rate by 25 bips, and I strongly feel that US would be raising this meeting, which is happening in May, by another 50 bips. Market is indicating that they are going to be increasing by 50 bips. Of course, I am not in the favor of 50 bips, but having said that, if US would increase by 50 bips, it would be a hard landing for US as well as for the emerging market. By hard landing, it means the markets across the world will come down. Because common sense that the institutional investors would be getting 50 bips higher in the US compared to emerging markets. In this scenario, the India would be under immense pressure to increase the interest rate. And if India increase the interest rate, then MSME, micro and small industry, the medium term industry and rest all would collapse, completely collapse, because India ground reality is far different than what is being projected in the media. More than 5 top automobile companies closed their shops in India. More than 1 or 2 telecommunication companies closed their shop in India. More than 8 banks top either wind it up or trim it down in India, and the list of the examples is very, very long. Henceforth, we really need to understand that if US would be raising the rates by 50 bips, then the whole Asia needs to follow this. China is secure because of their FX position, but India is not secure in their FX position because India NIIP, Net International Investment Position. And by the way, 99% of the investors, I repeat, 99% of the investors are unaware what the hell NIIP stands at and what is the meaning of NIIP. So if Fed would hike the rate, RBI would be pushed, and if RBI would hike the rate even by 25 bips, then the Indian economy, which is already collapsed, it would collapse more. And if it would be collapsing more, you know the end result. So if we go with this data, which I have, which clearly states that foreign institutional investors sold 1.48 lakh crores or 1,48,000 crores, I strongly feel that they would be selling more in the upcoming time. Number one is the US interest rate. Number two, the China-Taiwan factor. Number three, the United States interest rates. And not to mention Russia and Ukraine. We do not know when this war would be ending. But as we speak, there are hardly, I repeat, there are hardly any chances which we can see which make us sure that this war will at least tune it down. It is not at all happening. Having said that, to conclude, I request the investors to be very, very careful because of the fact that Indian domestic institutional investors, they cannot be in the picture for long. I would like to let you know, they are short-term players, and if foreign institutional investors would continue to sell, and by the way, the probability is on the higher side, then we may see the domestic institutional investors will raise their hands. As government is going to sell LIC, who by the way is the largest institutional investor as we speak, this would have negative repercussion on the market. Probably the government will get 60,000, 70,000 crores. That's a separate thing. But on market, this would have negative repercussion. This is what I would like to cover in this Facebook Connect today. This is Rahul Magan from Treasury Consulting Group. You knew our number 9899242978. I repeat, you knew my number 9899242978. Thank you and have a great time ahead. Good evening, friends. This is Rahul Magan here as a Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting, and also a venture capitalist. As we speak, Treasury Consulting is a multinational headquartered group and 100% profitable. Like I promised that every day I would be shooting a Facebook Live. So today I'm shooting yet again Facebook Live. But having said that, first of all, I'm having a very great news. And the great news is our OTT platform, over the top platform, is expanding very fast. And now we are adding many more series in our OTT platform. Very soon you will see the regular updates of OTT platform on the social media. It is just a matter of time. It is nothing but an edtech platform. But unlike Byju's and all, we are profitable. That's an important point. Today I would like to cover a very important topic, which is nothing but the HDFC and HDFC Bank merger. You know that I am a person of data. I never speak until otherwise I have the data. If I have the data, I speak. If I do not have the data, I do not speak. And you know that now I have made a habit that whatever data I am getting on the social network, I take a printout of that. And from that printout, I would be making the YouTube videos. So this time I got the printout of HDFC and HDFC Bank merger. You can refer that printout. This is a latest printout taken today, which is 19th April 2022 from the social media. Of course, a detailed video in that regards would be coming on YouTube channel very soon. When HDFC announced the merger, in fact, you remember when TikTok was there, I was talking about HDFC Bank, about Deepak Parekh, about many people of HDFC. Then I got the threatening call. And when HDFC Bank announced HDFC Bank merger, I came on Facebook and clearly said that it would end up as a mistake. You can go to Facebook and check I said this or not. On the same day of the merger, I went on the Facebook and said that this would end up as a mistake. And today, as we speak, the media is claiming that the HDFC Bank so-called merger wiped out 2.5 lakh crores. 2.5 lakh crores worth of investor wealth. And this is what I warned on the same day when HDFC Bank announced that merger. Guys, the biggest problem in India, the biggest problem in India is that people do not know how to study the balance sheet. And we simply run on the media reports. So tomorrow, if I'm just giving a hypothetical example, If tomorrow there is a news came that IndusInd Bank is merging with Bank of America, it's an example, then people will start buying IndusInd Bank. Or maybe day after there is a news coming that SBI is merging with HDFC, example, then people will start buying SBI. They will not look at the balance sheet. So let me take the balance sheet. The balance sheet study is the most important thing which an investor should do. And specifically talking when it comes to banks. So probably again an example. TCS is merging with Infosys. Example. Okay, we can take this, probably we can make guesses on this. We can invest based on the presumption. But when it comes to bank, when it comes to non-banking financial corporation, then the story is different. And the story is we need to study the balance sheet. Whether the balance sheet is supporting both or not. But unfortunately, Indian investor really not interested to study the balance sheet. And see, this is the live evidence. I have taken this from the internet. You can yourself check from the internet. 2.5 lakh crores. I repeat, 2.5 lakh crores worth of investor wealth is wiped out. Have you seen any media house, any paid anchor, or anyone talking about this? Never. They will not even touch it. An Indian investor, he is hardly bothered about the balance sheet. So let me give you a few facts. On page number 2 of this article, I again repeat, I would be making a detailed video on the YouTube channel once I get the time. But if I go to page number 2, on the day the merger is announced, the both stock, HDFC and HDFC Bank, surged by 14%, 14%, and added 1 lakh crore of investor wealth, which means that investors just entered in this stock without having any analysis. Because it's common sense that to study the balance sheet, you need at least 2 to 3 days. And if on the day of the announcement, you entered in the stock, it's a clear example that you not studied the balance sheet. And common sense, you simply entered it. Now, I'll tell you something more. These all are the brokerages firm. I have raised my voice multiple times against the brokerages firm. Not only India, but also the foreign brokerage firm. We all understand that how they actually work. Morgan Stanley, who is currently facing the block trades probe by Security and Exchange Commission, every day advising Indian investors to buy this or to sell this. And if you ask the research report, they will never give you. This is Morgan Stanley. Credit Suisse, whose own share price is $7, and name the fraud which Credit Suisse not done. Even recently, they being fined. They are acting as a foreign brokerage in India. UBS, the share price is around $11 to $15. They are advising the Indian investors to buy this and sell this. And I'm never short of examples. But Indian regulators are merely watching, no action, and it would never happen. So I always challenge these brokerages firm that how are they giving the targets. If you have guts, then upload the research report in public domain and let people study it. So Edelweiss is giving a target, before of 1860. Kotak Institutional 1650. MK Global 1950. Nomura 175. Yes Securities 1668. Yes Securities. Yes Security. It is from Yes Bank. And what did happen with the Yes Bank? We all are aware about that. Even after that, they are giving recommendations in the public domain. So this evidence is sufficient to prove that investors who never study the balance sheet, who do not know how to study the balance sheet, and invest in stock only because of hype, they always end up in losses. And in this case of HDFC, the investors lost 2.5 lakh crores. But please be rest assured that Indian regulator, Indian media, Indian newspaper, magazines, or any form of digital media except our YouTube channel is not going to be questioning them. On our YouTube, I would be letting you know why this merger would fail. And this is called the Great Indian Circus. I call this the Great Indian Circus, whereby anyone can do anything. This is Rahul Magan from Treasury Consulting Group. You knew my personal number 9899242978. Have a great time ahead. Good evening. This side Rahul Magan here as a Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting, and also a venture capitalist. As we speak, Treasury Consulting is a multinational headquartered and profitable group. Before I start today Facebook Connect, I'm extremely pleased that we launched more series in our TRFX Academy. So TRFX is nothing but our OTT platform, over the top. And we launched the trial series on our OTT platform, which means that now people can enjoy the trial version of our OTT platform for 30 days, just 100 rupees. And I'm assuring you that we are set to compete with Amazon and Netflix very soon. It is a matter of time. We are set to compete with both of them. Today, I would be covering a very important topic, which is titled around a company known as Byju's. To confirm, I have downloaded an article from the Economic Times website, and this is a very recent article. This article is an eye-opener from a figure standpoint, and analytics is completely ours. Of course, we are also planning a detailed video in that regards on our YouTube channel as well. We all know that Byju's is a loss-making company. There is hardly any doubt regarding this fact. But unfortunately, the paid, sold, and corrupt Indian media would never like to discuss this. Because common sense, they are busy in discussing few selected corporates, or their bosses do not want the facts to discuss. Guys, you would be surprised to know that Byju's claim to be a $18 billion company. $18 billion, which is approximately 1,30,000 to 1,40,000 crores, somewhere in between 1,30,000 to 1,40,000 crores. And a loss-making company like Byju's claim to be a $18 billion company. But if you read this article, you get statistics which probably the paid, sold, and corrupt Indian media will never discuss this. Example, Byju's bought a company called White Hat Junior. You heard me right, White Hat Junior, by paying $300 million US dollars, which means near about 2,200 crores. So a loss-making company bought a company known as White Hat Junior by paying near about 300 million US dollars. And this isn't the first time. In July 2021, they acquired Epic by paying $500 million. They acquired US-based Osmo by paying $120 million in January 2019. In July 2017, they acquired Tutor Vista Adorite from Pearson. They also acquired heavyweights like Akash Academy and many more companies. The first and biggest question that is coming is from where the Byju's is getting the money. Who is funding the Byju's buying companies one by one? Because a loss-making company cannot buy such, I would say at a such big scale. Let it be honest. They bought White Hat Junior, and the purpose of White Hat Junior was to teach Indian kids coding. Initial purpose was to teach Indian kids coding. So let me read these articles. Most notable startup under its umbrella that is facing trouble is online coding platform White Hat Junior, which they bought in July 2020, paying near about 300 million US dollars. While White Hat Junior, Byju's aimed to taking coding to the world from India, hiring teachers on the contractual basis. Remember, teachers on the contractual basis. White Hat Junior posted a massive loss. In financial year 21, White Hat Junior got the operating revenue of mere 484 crores. It means only 484 crores worth of revenue is generated by White Hat Junior. And as against 484 crore of revenue, they reported a loss of 1,690 crores. 1,690 crores. Which precisely mean on a very approximate basis that to earn 1 rupee, you are losing more than 3 rupees. To earn 1 rupee, you are losing more than 3 rupees. This is called the startup business model of India. I repeat, this is called the startup business model of India. You would also be surprised to know that, the company told IANS, which is a media forum, it had asked its nearly 3,000 sales and support employees to report to either Mumbai or Gurugram. And out of total 5,000 strong workforce, it includes teachers which are on the contractual basis and hence not full-time employee. This is what coming in the media. Whitehouse Junior has also shut its school division that last year targeted to take its flagship coding curriculum to 10 lakh school students. Do you know, guys, India media is a fraud media. There is no doubt about that. Because whether it is Paytm, Ola, Uber, Swiggy, Zomato, Lenskart, Delivery, Oyo, Byju's, and many such companies, the media never reports the fact. Like today, I was looking at Ola Electric financial statements on the public domain, and I was shocked. I was shocked that operating revenue is, I don't have words. I'll have a separate video. Please be rest assured. And if you look at the media, then the Indian media is giving a hype to the Ola Electric. But the reality is completely different. Similarly is the Byju's. I have made many videos on these startups and I hardly bother about the feedback, like, dislike, comments and all these things. But one thing I'm always certain is that this startup model is now busting. Because Unacademy, fired 1,000 employees. I'm not saying this, it's a public data which is talking it about. Unacademy having the money to invest in IPL, Indian Premier League. I hope you're watching IPL. I don't have time to watch IPL, but if you're watching IPL, you would have got to know that Unacademy is doing the advertisement. They have the money to advertise in IPL, but they cut 1,000 jobs. Did any media house in India dared to cover this? Never. Never. Upgrad, Amitabh Bachchan is promoting Upgrad, MBA. Amitabh Bachchan himself is not MBA, but he is promoting Upgrad MBA. When we speak about Amitabh Bachchan, then one thing is very clear, that this man can promote crypto, this man can promote bank, this man can promote, I would say the jewelry business, this man can promote the pharmaceutical business, probably the FMCG business, the scooty business, and now he is promoting MBA. Because in Bollywood, you do not need degree, certificate, experience, expertise, and knowledge to make things happen. That's the bloody point. And the whole regulatory framework of India, is watching. Amitabh Bachchan, who even do not know B of banking, is promoting banks. IDFC First Bank. This is Amitabh Bachchan. And the whole regulatory framework is watching like a Gandhi ji ke teen bandar. This is Indian system. And you would also surprised to know that the Upgrad lost near about 211 crores in financial year 21. But still they are unicorn. And look at the Whitehouse Junior. I'm not yet done. According to the public information, Byju's recently launched 80 physical tuition centers and plans to increase it to 500 in 200 cities by 2022, providing employment to around 10,000 people, including teachers. A loss-making company, Byju's, is now opening up the physical center. Now, what is the meaning of physical center, guys? The meaning of the physical center is your cost is fixed. You have a center, whether this center is 100 square feet, 200 square feet, 300 square feet, 400 square feet, or whatever the space is, but your cost is fixed, which is facility cost, probably the security cost, fixtures and furnitures, the electricity cost, the insurance cost, the hell lot of cost. The whole world after COVID, and as we speak, COVID is again shaping up. We have seen COVID in Shanghai, Hong Kong, South Korea, and many parts of the globe. So COVID is again shaping up and the whole world is now going online. But Byju's, who claim to be an AgTech platform, AgTech, what the meaning of AgTech? The meaning of AgTech is very clear, that education technology, which means online, is now opening up tuition center. And they launched 80 physical tuition center. What would be the cost of these 80 physical tuition center? And what would be the cost of the 500 tuition centers to come in 200 cities? Do we knew this about? And this is getting done by a loss-making company known as Byju's. And the whole media is quiet. I'll tell you one more interesting fact. The founder of Byju's, Mr. Ravindran, has reportedly financed his recent 400 million investments in a company through a debt he raised from multiple international banks. So even the funding which is happening in the company is now being raised in the form of debt. Now debt means interest cost. Interest cost means EPS. And your EPS, which is earning per share, is already negative. This is the realistic Byju's we have. Even Einstein, Edison, and Steve Jobs together cannot justify 18 billion valuation of Byju's. But the whole regulatory framework of India is silent. Now, what do you call this? What do you call this? Do you need any more evidence? I don't need any more evidence. And I hardly bother about like, dislike, comments, and all these things on my YouTube, Facebook, or any other social media platform. But I continue to reflect the fact in the public domain. Because even today, Goldman Sachs cannot challenge Treasury Consulting. Who the hell is these startups who are consistent loss making and claiming to be a unicorn? Byju's. Detailed YouTube video on the cards. This is Rahul Magan from Treasury Consulting Group. You knew our personal number 9899242978. I repeat, 9899242978. Have a great time ahead. Good evening. This side Rahul Magan here as a Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting, and also a venture capitalist. As we speak, Treasury Consulting is a multinational headquartered group based out Singapore. सबसे पहले तो गुड न्यूज़ ये है कि अब हमारा जो OTT प्लेटफॉर्म है ओवर द टॉप TRFX अकेडमी, उसमें काफ़ी ज़्यादा वीडियोस आनी शुरू हो गई हैं. और सबसे इंटरेस्टिंग फैक्ट ये है कि अब हम उसमें 6 मिनट तक की वीडियो अपलोड कर रहे हैं और प्रोसेस कायम है कि हम उसको इंक्रीज करके 10 मिनट्स तक लेके आए। डेफिनेटली अगले 1 या 2 महीने में हमारी कोशिश पूरी रहेगी कि हम उसको 10 मिनट्स तक लेके आए। हमने अपने OTT प्लेटफॉर्म TRFX अकेडमी का ट्रायल वर्जन भी शुरू कर दिया है, विच मीन्स कि आप उसे 30 डेज के लिए 100 रुपीज में शॉर्टलिस्ट कर सकते हैं। 30 डेज ओनली 100 रुपीज। और TRFX अकेडमी अब इस्लामिक फाइनेंस में भी आ गई है, यानी कि इस वीक से इस्लामिक फाइनेंस से रिलेटेड वीडियोस भी TRFX अकेडमी पे आ जाएंगी, जो कि इस टाइम पे एक यूनिक थिंग है, क्योंकि कोई भी इस्लामिक फाइनेंस को OTT प्लेटफॉर्म पे कवर नहीं करता, क्योंकि वो बहुत क्रिटिकल टॉपिक है। आज के फेसबुक कनेक्ट में हम एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग फैक्ट पे बात करेंगे, जिसका डेटा मैंने डेफिनेटली पब्लिक डोमेन से लिया। ये है वो डेटा। आज से 2-3 महीने पहले जब लाइफ इंश्योरेंस कॉर्पोरेशन का IPO की न्यूज मार्केट में आई, तो हिंदी मीडिया ने एक जबरदस्त हाइप क्रिएट किया और देखते ही देखते आर्टिकल्स ने लाइफ इंश्योरेंस कॉर्पोरेशन को 17 लाख करोड़ की वैल्यूएशन भी दे दी। 17 लाख करोड़। मैंने तभी भी YouTube पे वीडियो बनाई, शॉर्ट एप्स पे वीडियो बनाई कि लाइफ इंश्योरेंस कॉर्पोरेशन, माना वो प्रॉफिटेबल है, लेकिन उसकी वैल्यूएशन 17 लाख करोड़ जस्टिफाई नहीं करती। या तो हो कि लाइफ इंश्योरेंस कॉर्पोरेशन के पास 20,000, 25,000, 30,000 करोड़ का एनुअल प्रॉफिट आ रहा है, तो समझ में आता है। लेकिन अगर हम लाइफ इंश्योरेंस कॉर्पोरेशन का ईयरली प्रॉफिट देखें और फिर उसको 17 लाख करोड़ की वैल्यूएशन से जस्टिफाई करें, तो मुझे नहीं लगता कि मैं उसको जस्टिफाई कर सकता हूं। हां, हिंदी मीडिया के स्पीकर 17 नहीं 35 लाख करोड़ पे भी उसको जस्टिफाई कर सकते हैं। तो उस टाइम पे भी एक मेजर इशू ये क्रिएट हुआ था कि लाइफ इंश्योरेंस कॉर्पोरेशन की जो 17 लाख करोड़ की जो वैल्यूएशन है, क्या वो जस्टिफाई है? मेरे हिसाब से वो जस्टिफाई नहीं थी। लेकिन आगे बढ़ने से पहले मैं आपको एक स्टोरी सुनाता हूं। एक बार किसी रिपोर्टर ने स्टीव जॉब्स से पूछा कि आप कैसे अपने प्रोडक्ट्स का प्राइस डिसाइड करते हैं, फिर चाहे वो आईफोन हो, आईमैक हो, आईमैक एयरबुक हो। तो स्टीव जॉब्स ने बड़ा अच्छा जवाब दिया। वो बिल्कुल साफ बात करते थे, बिल्कुल क्लियर। उनको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता था कि लोग उनके बारे में क्या सोचते हैं, उनको कितने लाइक्स मिलते हैं, कितने डिसलाइक्स मिलते हैं, उनको इस चीज से कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता था। यही चीज मैं फॉलो करता हूं। तो स्टीव जॉब्स ने कहा कि हम अपने प्रोडक्ट में इतनी क्वालिटी लेके आते हैं कि उसका प्राइस हम खुद डिसाइड करते हैं। क्योंकि हमारे प्रोडक्ट में इतनी क्वालिटी होती है, इसीलिए कस्टमर हमारे प्रोडक्ट को बाय करता है, लेकिन हम उसका प्राइस खुद डिसाइड करते हैं। साथ ही साथ स्टीव जॉब्स ने यह भी कहा कि हमारा प्रोडक्ट कभी भी लॉस में नहीं बिकता, और जो बिल्कुल अच्छी बात है। लेकिन पेटीएम, ओला, उबर, स्विगी, जोमेटो, लेंसकार्ट, डिलीवरी और इन सारे तुर्रम खान को स्टीव जॉब्स की ये बात समझ में नहीं है। मेरे को तो आई। स्टीव जॉब्स की अगर उस बात को एक एग्जाम्पल लें कि अगर आपके प्रोडक्ट में दम है तो आप जिस प्राइस पर भी मार्केट में अपना प्राइस रखोगे उस पे लोग बाय करेंगे। जैसे कि इस चीज का एग्जाम्पल भी देखने को मिलता है कि आज खड़े होके एप्पल एक साल में $250 बिलियन, बिल्कुल ठीक सुना, $250 बिलियन की एनुअल सेल करती है, जिसमें उनके टेक्नोलॉजिकल प्रोडक्ट्स, आईफोन, आईमैक एयरबुक और उनकी सर्विसेज, उनका आई स्टोर और ये सारी चीजें होती हैं। एप्पल की बुक्स में नियर अबाउट $250 बिलियन का रिजर्व्स है। रिजर्व्स का मतलब होता है फ्री कैश, एक ऐसा कैश जिनकी एप्पल को हार्डली रिक्वायरमेंट है, तो जो भी उनके इन्वेस्टमेंट इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स हैं वो उनमें वो पैसा इन्वेस्ट करते हैं। लेकिन अगर हम इंडियन कंपनीज, खासतौर पे विप्रो, HCL, TCS या इन्फोसिस को इनकी एनुअल सेल्स को ऐड करें तो आपको पता चलेगा कि इनकी एनुअल सेल्स एप्पल की एनुअल सेल की 1/5 भी नहीं है, जबकि इन सबको ऑलमोस्ट 40 ईयर से ज्यादा हो गए हैं, ऑलमोस्ट। और अगर इनकी टोटल वर्कफोर्स को ऐड किया जाए तो इनकी वर्कफोर्स एप्पल की वर्कफोर्स से कितने टाइम्स ज्यादा है। ये स्टेटमेंट सुन के इंडियन आईटी कंपनीज का मन खराब हो जाता है, क्योंकि सच्चाई है। लेकिन एप्पल इतनी कामयाब कंपनी कैसे हुई? वो इसीलिए कि एप्पल ने अपने प्रोडक्ट्स में दम रखा। इसलिए शायद स्टीव जॉब्स के टाइम में जब आईफोन, आईपैड या आईमैक एयरबुक इन जैसे प्रोडक्ट्स लॉन्च होते थे तो वो लाइन लग के बिकते थे। जो भी एप्पल स्टोर्स होते थे उनके बाहर लाइन लग जाती थी प्रोडक्ट्स के लिए। अब इसी एग्जाम्पल का अगर हम LIC, लाइफ इंश्योरेंस कॉर्पोरेशन को में फिट करें तो, और इस रिपोर्ट जो पब्लिक डोमेन में आई है उसके हिसाब से अब गवर्नमेंट 30,000 करोड़ का IPO लॉन्च करेगी। पहले जो आर्टिकल्स आए पब्लिक डोमेन में उसके हिसाब से 60 से 75,000 करोड़ का IPO आना था, अब ऑलमोस्ट उसका आधा है, यानी कि 30,000 करोड़। और अगर मैं इस आर्टिकल की बात करूं तो इस आर्टिकल के हिसाब से आपकी जो LIC की वैल्यूएशन है वो 40% कम हो जाएगी। और इस चीज का पूरे का पूरा क्रेडिट रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर को दे दिया गया। क्या रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर के कारण एप्पल लॉस में चली गई? नहीं। फेसबुक लॉस में चली गई? नहीं। माइक्रोसॉफ्ट लॉस में चली गई? नहीं। अमेजोन लॉस में चली गई? नहीं। गूगल लॉस में चली गई? नहीं। ऐसी कई कंपनीज लॉस में नहीं गई। आप इनके प्रॉफिट्स देखिए, ये एज यूजुअल बिजनेस कर रहे हैं। रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर का LIC की वैल्यूएशन से क्या मतलब? ये तो वही बात हो गई कि वैष्णो देवी, जो कि माता रानी का एक तीर्थ स्थल है, उसकी कंपैरिजन की जाए ग्रीस के किसी टेंपल से। ग्रीस का टेंपल ग्रीस में है, माता वैष्णो देवी का जो टेंपल है वो जम्मू कश्मीर में है, जो इंडिया में आता है। तो दोनों अलग अलग देश हैं। जब दोनों अलग अलग देश हैं तो ये कैसे हो सकता है कि वो टेंपल इंडिया में हो या माता रानी का जो है वो ग्रीस में हो? ये नहीं हो सकता। इसी तरीके से रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर का LIC से क्या मतलब? कोई मतलब नहीं, क्योंकि आज आप फेसबुक पे जाएं या फिर यूट्यूब पे जाएं और देखें कि भारत की मीडिया ने इसको कितना ट्रिमेंडस हाइप दिया था जब ये IPO आया था, कि LIC का इतना प्रीमियम है, LIC की इतनी पॉलिसी है, LIC फलाना है, LIC ये है, LIC का मार्केट शेयर इतना है, जबकि रियलिस्टिक बात यह है कि पिछले 15 साल से LIC का मार्केट शेयर कम हो रहा है, ना कि बढ़ रहा है। प्राइवेट कॉम्पिटिटर्स जैसे कि ICICI प्रूडेंशियल, HDFC लाइफ, भारती एक्सा और ऐसे जैसे कई प्राइवेट कॉम्पिटिटर्स LIC के लिए एक प्लेटफॉर्म जो है वो डिटैच कर रहे हैं। लेकिन क्या आपको ये चीज समझ में आई कि पहले जिस हिंदी मीडिया ने LIC को एक बहुत बड़ी टॉप कंपनी बना दिया था, आज वही हिंदी मीडिया LIC की वैल्यूएशन को कम कर रही है। यानी कि सांप और हिंदी मीडिया दोनों में कोई ज्यादा डिफरेंस नहीं है। मेरा तो पर्सनल ओपिनियन यही है, क्योंकि अगर LIC की बैलेंस शीट इतनी स्ट्रांग है तो आप उसको उसकी ओरिजिनल वैल्यू पे लॉन्च कीजिए। या कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं कि पेटीएम, जोमैटो, पॉलिसी बाजार, नाइकिया, कार ट्रेड, इनका डेमो देखने के बाद अब ये बात समझ में आ गई है कि LIC को उसी वैल्यूएशन पे लॉन्च किया गया तो कई पेटीएम सेकंड ना हो जाए। पता चले, क्योंकि मुझे अच्छे से याद है पिछली बार जब LIC का हाइप हुआ था तो LIC को नियर अबाउट आई वुड से 2600 के प्राइस पे लॉन्च करने की बात हो रही थी। नियर अबाउट 2600। मैं तभी भी हैरान था कि LIC की बैलेंस शीट तो 2600 को जस्टिफाई नहीं करती, तो 2600 कैसे हो गया। लेकिन मेरा भारत महान, खास तौर पे मेरी मीडिया महान, कुछ भी हो सकता है। आज वही मीडिया ये कह रही है कि गवर्नमेंट LIC को 50% कम, यानी 60,000 करोड़ की जगह 30,000 करोड़ रेस करेगी और वैल्यूएशन 40% कम होगी। मैं तो कंक्लूड कर रहा हूं अपनी स्टोरी। उस टाइम भी मैंने कहा था कि LIC ओवर वैल्यूड है और आज भी मैं कह रहा हूं LIC ओवर वैल्यूड है। LIC का स्टॉक ज्यादा से ज्यादा 600 रुपए। अगर 600 रुपए से ज्यादा LIC का स्टॉक मिला तो मैं नहीं लूंगा, और उसमें भी मेरे 10 फैक्टर्स होंगे कि मार्केट कंडीशन क्या है, FII सेल कर रहे हैं कि नहीं कर रहे, LIC की बैलेंस शीट जो मेरे लिए सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर है वो बैलेंस शीट क्या है, और ऐसे 10 फैक्टर। ये नहीं कि आपका LIC 600 रुपए में आ गया तो मैं 600 में बाय कर लूंगा, ऐसा कभी नहीं होगा। लेकिन मैं भारत की मीडिया की दाद देना चाहूंगा, वो ऐसा कि गिरगिट भी अपना रंग इतनी जल्दी नहीं बदलता जितनी भारत की मीडिया बदल लेती है। 2 महीने पहले जो मीडिया LIC को 17 लाख करोड़, सही सुना, 17 लाख करोड़ पे जस्टिफाई कर रही थी, आज वही मीडिया LIC को 40% कम पे सपोर्ट कर रही है। This is Rahul Magan from Treasury Consulting Group. You knew my personal number 9899242978. I repeat 9899242978. Have a great time ahead.